Welcome in to I Remember My First Time.
Yeah.
Don't be nasty, Jacob. Not that first time.
God damn it.
This is a podcast about cinematic awakenings
Mm-mm. I like the sound of that.
where we talk about movies we love with someone who just popped their cherry to that movie.
Ooh, virgin's nice.
Don't ever say that again. Don't ever say it like that again. Jacob, are all the movies we do on this podcast going to be good movies?
God, I fucking hope not.
Do we like shitty movies?
Oh, we love shitty movies. Sometimes, even more than good movies.
Are we critics?
Mm-mm. Absolutely not.
But do we love movies?
Oh, BJ, we love the shit out of movies. And this week's masterpiece is about another masterpiece. We got Eddie Murphy portraying Rudy Ray Moore in Dolemite Is My Name.
Jacob, for this podcast, nudity is required, but so is talent.
BJ, I want karate, explosions, and titties.
I am BJ Leica, and I don't have a stable of hoes.
Joined as always by me, Jackie Peakus is my name, and fucking up motherfuckers is my game.
Jacob, I was really upset that this movie was not about the sedimentary rock that is made up of calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate, dolomite. And it's spelt different, and I spelled it wrong every time I had to write it for this stupid fucking podcast.
You know what? Being boring white guy who studied geology, you would be upset that this wasn't about boring ass rocks. And guys, welcome to Black History Month, where we start out telling you that we're boring white guys.
Who better to talk to you about black movies than a guy who was disappointed that it wasn't about a rock type?
Oh, so I already said it's about Rudy Ray Moore. Tell us about this. Tell us about this movie, BJ. It's a Netflix original, which I'm gonna let everybody know. Typically, BJ don't even fuck with Netflix originals of any kind.
No, which is probably why I haven't seen it to this date. But this movie, described by Netflix, well, you want to talk about getting straight to the point. In 1970 LA, struggling comedian Rudy Ray Moore hits it big with a raunchy alter ego Dolemite, then risk it all to make his act on the big screen.
Boom. I wish they would have used Netflix would have used blaxploitation film in the description, because white people don't know anything about blaxploitation films.
Yeah. I mean, they actually go into pretty good detail in the movie. Not like extensive, but like,
No, they do a great job in the movie. I just mean in the description, because I mean that description doesn't really tell you
yeah.
that it's about blaxploitation films, and that just would have been nice in the description. But they do a good job in the movie. But yeah, that's the movie. We're both virgins on this movie, so who wants to start with their thoughts?
I'll go first. This movie is a just wonderful mix of raunchy and sweet. This movie is, I found, incredibly funny, despite, I'm not sure I laughed out loud, but I found the whole movie funny. It is a simple 3-act structure that each act kind of repeats itself. It kind of starts off, nothing's going right, then it gets in its rhythm, and then it ends happy. All 3 acts, same structure. And each act is kind of the same joke. Like act 1 is basically the same joke over and over. Act 2 is basically the same joke over and over. Act 3 is just incredibly super sweet and a really good ending to the movie. But it's a really enjoyable watch, and I think it's that combination of raunchy and sweet that is really hard to pull off that this movie does really well.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Very similar thoughts to the movie. I I don't know if I laughed out loud either, but I chuckled out loud many times. I found this movie hilarious. There were numerous times that I would just start chuckling, and then was like, "Why are you like what was funny?" Because she missed it. What tired looking at her phone, and I'm just like, he just said that she got down so low she sucked an earthworm's dick. I don't know. That was funny to me.
Yeah, like I said, I found this movie funny, but at the same time, I don't know if I ever laughed out loud. It's one of those. It's not a it's not a 45-second YouTube what YouTube Shorts clip type of movie, but it is still very funny, if that makes any sense.
No, I found this movie hilarious, and I agree with what you're saying. And like you said, a very sweet movie that you wouldn't think would be as sweet as it is.
No movie says motherfucker this many times and is this sweet. I'm gonna go out on a limb.
Um, I totally agree. Totally agree. More specifically, what'd you like about the movie?
I talked about how sweet it was. This is the funniest Eddie Murphy's been since The Nutty Professor. He's he regains his stardom and just charisma in this movie. He's wonderful. I loved the supporting cast. I loved every single member of the supporting cast. Great little kind of tongue-in-cheek, funky, cheesy score backing it the whole time. And the cinematography, the aesthetic for a Netflix original that probably didn't have a huge budget, may have, I don't know. The aesthetic was really cool, and that 70s that black 70s LA vibe really shined through.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how it looked like it was shot in the 70s. The wardrobe, how they all walked and talked, and it was awesome. I enjoyed the 70s vibe. The supporting cast was phenomenal. I enjoyed every character in this movie, even if they showed up for just a second. The supporting cast was awesome. And what else did I like about this movie? There's one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, I personally don't think you mentioned that you thought, and I'm sure you'll get to this on things you didn't like about the movie, but you mentioned that you thought it was 20 minutes too long. I personally didn't think there was a wasted scene. Like, I was never bored, cared about what was going on the whole time. And like you said, Eddie Murphy's back, baby.
You,
Eddie
you know, I
Murphy's
don't
fucking back.
I don't know if it was 15 or 20 minutes too long, just as much as every single act had the same structure to it. I think that was more it than it actually being too long. It is a full 2 hours, which is long for a comedy,
Yeah.
but also it's kind of a biopic too, in a
You,
way,
you
in
know,
a really weird way.
I was just gonna say that because it is a biopic. I mean, it focuses on one very specific part of this guy's life. But if you don't know this guy, it introduces you to who he is, what he was doing, what he did for black cinema, and then you can go check it out. And me and you typically hate biopics, but when we do like them, it's about people like this. Like,
Yes, it's
I don't need to see a Ray Charles biopic. I don't need to see an Elvis Presley biopic or a Freddie Mercury. I know their whole catalog. I've watched interviews. I know who they are. I know their story. Like, you're not showing me anything I don't know.
yes, two things. Number one, the biopic of somebody or something you don't know a lot about is critical. I I didn't learn anything in the Johnny Cash movie. I knew everything about everything that was portrayed in the movie, pretty much I knew about Freddie Mercury. Same with Ray Charles. I knew nothing about Rudy Ray Moore. And I think more importantly than that with the biopic is picking that little what does this movie take place over? Maybe 2 years?
Yeah,
Picking that particular window where you can tell the full story and go into detail in the full story, brilliant. That's what you need to do, biopics.
I 100% agree. Focus on like you said, just a 2-3 year window so you can tell the whole story. Because now I want to go check out Rudy Ray Moore. I want to go watch his movies. I want to check out his comedy. Like now I want to. And it's because of how well this movie did the quote unquote biopic. Uh Anything you didn't like about the movie?
I mentioned 2 hours is long for a comedy. Every act is kind of the same joke, but because each act is a different joke, it's not as dull as you would think it is. Because you're getting the Rudy Ray Moore, sucking an earthworm's dick is basically the joke but it's only for 40 minutes of the movie. And then people
Yeah,
not knowing how to make a movie, comedy of errors, making the movie is only 40 minutes. So it doesn't work as poorly as you think, and that's a real nitpick, I guess.
fair. For me, there wasn't anything I didn't like about this movie. I guess if I had to pick one thing gun to my head, I would have liked laugh out loud moments with how funny I thought this movie was. Because I thought like we talked about, I thought this movie was hilarious. And I would have liked to laugh out loud a couple times. So I guess that. But I I I thought this was a great movie. To answer our next question, was it a good or a bad movie? I thought this movie was fucking great.
I'm gonna do this a little early here. This movie has a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if it's that good, but it is good. To answer the question, yes, it is good. But that 97% on Rotten Tomatoes floored me.
That is such a high score.
That's that's greatest movie of all time high score. And,
Yeah.
and like I said, this movie's good. It's flat out good. It's sweet, it's raunchy, it's funny. But 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's the IMDb rating and the Metacritic score?
7.2 on IMDb and 76% Metacritic score.
See, that seems more like I personally rate it higher than those two scores, but that's where I feel this movie should sit in the general public. And you'll have great and I said I think this movie is a great movie. Great movies sit at like, you know, 7, 8 a lot of times. So,
So Roger Ebert would have loved this movie. He loves when you combine sweet with just dick jokes. But I do have one paragraph from RogerEbert.com. I didn't put who it was written by. You can look it up if you want. Don't be lazy. But I do enjoy this paragraph. 20 years have passed since Eddie Murphy last used the kind of R-rated profanity he frequently employs in Dolemite Is My Name. And it's a homecoming of sorts. After decades of comedic PG and PG-13 rated fare, the self-proclaimed Mr. Fuck You Man is back. Less than a minute into director Craig Brewer's very entertaining biopic, Murphy drops the words Samuel L. Jackson is most famous for uttering. It's not just the triumphant return to cussing that fans have been craving. It's also a reminder Sam Jackson's favorite word may be maternal adjacent and 12 letters long, but before he commandeered it, it was owned by Rudy Ray Moore.
awesome. There we don't typically get really good sentences or paragraphs or read or whatever from Ebert's website now that he's passed, but that was very, very well put.
That was a paragraph that Roger Ebert would have wrote.
Yeah, totally agree. And like you said, I think Roger Ebert would have loved this movie. I think he would have loved seeing Eddie Murphy go back to vulgarity and crudeness, but also so endearingly sweet. This is Eddie Murphy's first rated R movie since Life from 1999.
With Martin Lawrence.
Yeah. Yep. Well, anything else from the Ebert website, or is that pretty much all you had?
That was it. The rest of the review wasn't written as well, but I did like that paragraph, and I thought you would like it too.
Yeah, that paragraph is great. Honestly, one of the best paragraphs we've had, and it wasn't even written by Roger Ebert, so surprising. All right, BJ, it's time to get deep into this movie.
Earthworm Deep?
Ooh, Dolemite deep, baby.
Woo!
So deep, you're fucking so hard, the pictures are moving on the wall, the bed's shaking, and the ceiling comes down.
Spoiler, that is in my Rushmore. A perfect amount of nudity.
Yes. It never got too much, which when you have as much nudity as this movie had, you tend to flirt with that line and typically go across it. But like you said, it never had too much.
Well, and I would say not just with the nudity, but the over the top cussing. Just when you thought it was about to be too much, they threw in a super sweet scene that almost always involved, what was her name? Lady Reed.
Yeah.
It was always a scene between her and Murphy that was just wonderfully sweet. And you were like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about the titties."
I didn't.
uh, but my fourth favorite scene, speaking of sweet, the third act is the least funny act of the movie for sure. But sweetness is what makes this movie good. And the last scene when they're doing the premiere of Dolemite, and Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Brown decides to stay back and give the people waiting a show as Dolemite. When he's talking to the kid, it's all just so sweet. This is the sweetest part of the movie. I feel like I had to put it in my Rushmore. I really liked the ending to this movie.
Yeah, the ending was great. That's really my fourth favorite scene too. And I started before you do.
The
I
limo
started
ride.
when I started when he picks Lady Reed up.
Mhm.
I started right there because again, just the sweetness of this movie and her just being like, because you got her being vulnerable and sensitive earlier in the film, when she was like, I don't like pictures. Like I think about my body and I think about my weight and I can't do this movie. And it continues on and then this scene and she's like, I appreciate what you did. Thanks for putting me in this movie because you don't see women like me in these movies.
And my kid has underwear without holes in him because of you.
Yep. Yep. And then the limo ride was great. I love he's like, this is a good review. And they're like, how is that good? He's like, because you're gonna want to go watch it because of all this shit being said. And Rudy Ray Moore, you're 100% right. Because if I'd have read that shit, I'd have been right fucking there. There's a reason our podcast is called I Remember My First Time.
Yeah, we're
You're,
essentially poking fun of these critics that are like, it was vulgar and disgusting and poorly made. And we're like, yeah, it was fun. That's what you're telling me.
yeah. And it's one of those Eddie Murphy delivered the line perfectly. Just talking to some white studio executive.
Bob
Oh no,
Odenkirk.
he was it wasn't that one. It was
It wasn't the
actually
Odenkirk scene.
no, it was the black studio executive. And he goes, "You can't make this movie for the 5 blocks of people that you know here." And Eddie Murphy goes, man, every city in the US has 5 blocks that are just like here, and they all gonna like this movie. And I was like, fuck yeah, you goddamn right.
Anything else on this kind of final scene that you want to add?
No, I really liked him going back out there with the kid. Because, I mean, you could see it, and the kid, for the short amount of time that he was on screen, like, you could see how devastated he was that he didn't really get to talk to Dolomite.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back out there and does Dolomite, gives him his staff. Just fucking cool.
Yeah, a great ending to this movie. Dare I say, perfect ending.
Agreed. All right, your third favorite scene.
My third favorite scene, we already mentioned it. It's the sex can be funny scene. I had so much fun watching this scene. Again, like I don't really understand why I didn't laugh out loud, but everything about this scene is funny. Lady Reed and the accountant guy doing marionettes with the mirrors on the ceiling, and it tops it off with Wesley Snipes' reaction as the director at the end of the movie. I don't know if it was sexy. I don't know if it was hot, but it was sure as hell funny.
The sex scene is so good. It's so funny. And again, you're watching this and you think it's hilarious, but you're not laughing out loud. It's such a weird movie because there's not really any laugh out loud scenes, but there's some really fucking funny scenes in this movie. And that's one of them. My third favorite scene is the first karate scene when he throws the guy in the trunk and
Yep.
Wesley Snipes just looks at the white guy and he's just like, is there any angle you could shoot this that makes it look like he's actually kicking him? No angle.
That angle doesn't exist.
Yeah, that angle doesn't exist. And then they get done doing the scene, and then it's so funny. There's so much comedy. Wesley Snipes, this might be the best role I've ever seen him in. I loved his physical comedy. I loved his how he delivered his lines, his attitude, like everything, how he portrayed this guy. Awesome. And Eddie Murphy just a little bit of a belly doing this bullshit kung fu. And Eddie Murphy is just like, man, that scene seemed great. Was that scene great? And Wesley Snipes, all he could come up with was, I don't see a reason we need to shoot it again.
He's like, that's as good as it's gonna get. Let's just move on here. We're on a tight budget. I I want to mention this because I figured you would have Eddie Guerrero'd the scene where the guy who has made a career of playing the bad white guy in black movies gives his little pseudo monologue. I found that very funny as well.
Oh, it was so funny him delivering it, and then just a cherry on top of the sundae was Lady Reed just going, so you just found what you were good at. Boom!
Yep. And like you can tell she was real suspicious of him at the end, and she's like, "Oh no, you're a good dude. You just play shitheads." I I thought you were gonna kind of Eddie Guerrero that one into it because I really enjoyed that part and wasn't sure I was gonna get to bring it
Well,
up, but here
it,
we go.
I have two honorable mentions because I could. I thought this movie was so good. I thought about Eddie Guerrero my whole Mount Rushmore, and one of my scenes being every scene that they were making the movie. So
Well that leads right into my second favorite scene, which I called this a montage, and it's a really creative way to do the montage. In the middle of making the movie, when it starts with Craig Robinson's cool, funky track backing it, and it's them shooting the movie, like kind of scene for scene shooting the movie with that cool song playing back behind it the whole time, where it's kind of like a montage, but it's not really a montage.
yeah,
This is when I thought the movie really excelled because my first scene's very similar to this, but I just loved how they kind of moved that story along so quickly and so effectively and so fun.
yeah. Oh, sorry. There's this there's this plant, has this flower that grows on it, and people smoke it, and sometimes it makes people cough.
We refer to it
So
as magic mistletoe.
we do refer to it as magic mistletoe on this podcast. But yeah, that's a good scene. My second favorite scene is pretty much the whole first act. What's his? I keep forgetting this guy's name.
Rudy Ray Moore.
Yeah, you just get introduced to Rudy Ray Moore and just the hustle he's got, and his dumb jokes and Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy and picking up like yeah, Mike Epps, Craig Robinson. I always say this guy's name wrong, but Key and Peele Key.
Keegan Michael Key.
Yeah, Keegan Michael Key. Just and then Wesley Snipes. I just really enjoyed the intro. You got the ensemble, you got to really get to know the characters, and I really enjoyed the first act. And so I'm gonna lie, Steet and chill and make it my number 2 scene because I think it's what made the movie so great because it set everything up, in my opinion.
My number one scene is again, this is montage adjacent, but it's Rudy Ray Moore's rise in comedy, where it's basically just him on stage, joke after joke after joke, city after city after city. Again, just really interesting way to move the story along and still make it really fun and really funny. And it was just, I don't know, 4 straight minutes of jokes.
Oh, it was great, and that's I mean this is part of the first act, so this is part of my second scene. So I'm glad you I'm glad this was a specific scene for you, so we could talk more about it because this is also where you meet Lady Reed, and
Yes, it runs through the really sweet scene of meeting Lady Reed.
I don't
Was
know.
that right? Whatever. Just so sweet after all the vulgar comedy, and he has no sexual interest in this woman. He sees a woman, thinks she can be a star, and talks to her just on a real wholesome, friendly level. I loved it.
Yes, and I this was one of those parts of the movie that I chuckled when they were taking the picture for his first album cover, Eat Out More Often. And you had all those white guys in there, and it's just shot so well because you have, I mean, this is the 70s, and it, you have that very extreme sexualization of black women by white people, and this sexy black woman just drops her clothes, and these three white guys are like, holy shit, awesome. And then and then Eddie Murphy just strips down butt naked, and I just thought that was so funny because it was up for Rudy. What's his name again?
Rudy Ray Moore.
That's right. For Rudy Ray Moore, it was all business. She got naked. He got naked. He gave her a blanket and he grabbed a bowl of fruit. He's like, let's take this fucking picture. And then they do a good job of showing the album covers for his continuing albums. And they're just all pretty much the same. And they're all so fucking funny. So really, really good. Like you said, montage adjacent. Very interesting way to do the montage.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the smarter things that this movie did, was not getting bogged down in the come up.
Yeah. My number one scene is Eddie Murphy trying to sell this movie and get his crew on board, get
Trying to
financing
sell the
for it.
money, because so there's 2 different times. There's one at the earlier part where he's trying to get the finances for it, and then there's one where it's already made and he's trying to sell it.
I mean, get the finances for it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. He's got all his friends and his crew. You get Wesley Snipes, and
Getting Wesley Snipes in the strip club was another really funny scene.
yes, and his homegirl just being like, "I ain't being in no porno." He's like, "Hey man, I ain't making no porn. I'm making a movie." And
Nudity is required, but so is talent.
and I enjoyed him doing the movie because you got just a perfect way to showcase white people in power. Just hey, Rudy, we'll finance this thing, bro. But if it doesn't work out, we're gonna own your records forever, and you'll be working for free. And just really good storytelling. really enjoyed it. So yeah, number one scene. And then two honorable mentions. We already talked about one of them. The other one was the the birthing idea of making the film.
Oh,
And
the Keegan Michael Key portion of it, basically.
no, just a like yes, but no. A very specific. It's like 2-3 minutes of this movie where they go watch that super, super white movie that's supposed to be a comedy. And they're just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this shit's supposed to be funny?
They were mad. That was
And
like me and you after Magic Mike mad.
if that's not the whitest shit I've ever seen, this movie also really reminded me when my first serious girlfriend right out of high school, black woman named Constance, and I, had never seen Martin with Martin Lawrence. And I'd go over to her house and she'd have Martin on. And I'm like, what's this? And one of the best sitcoms of all time. And to all of our white listeners, the five
How
of you,
wait, you didn't have cable. How did you not watch Martin?
I lived out in East Texas.
Oh, you guys didn't get UPN out there? Okay. Because I was like, I grew up on Martin. I love that show.
Oh, Martin is great. But it's also a different kind of show. Like it's not made for white people. Doesn't mean it's not funny. Doesn't mean it's not great. It's an all-time great sitcom. If you haven't seen Martin, go fucking watch it. But this movie reminded me of that. Just enjoying and watching Martin the first time. And I remembered that
Second
in this.
Martin Lawrence reference on this podcast.
I know. And I really, it really dawned on me in that scene when they were watching that white ass movie and just, they were shooketh. They're like, I thought we was watching a comedy. God damn. Any other honorable mentions you want to hit before we leave our Mount Rushmore?
No, I think I'm good. We may have just covered this whole movie. Let's be honest.
I mean, we did. And we had to, because it's a great fucking movie.
Character breakdown. You got to start with Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Moore, Dolemite. He's the star of this movie, and he's great. This is, like I said, as funny as I've seen him, as funny as we've seen Eddie Murphy in 20 plus years. It's
I think this is as funny as we've ever seen Eddie Murphy. Like, I'm not saying it's better than Coming to America, Beverly Hills Cop, Nutty Professor, but I am saying it's as good.
yeah, it's. I didn't think he still had it in him, which was probably another reason I haven't seen this movie until now.
Yeah. It's funny, just, over the last 20 something odd years, he's become notorious for taking movies with rather large paychecks and,
Oh, I thought
just,
you were gonna say banging transvestites.
nah. Eddie Murphy, you do you, bro.
We don't kink shame here on IRMFT.
We sure don't. You know what? You have whatever kink you want to have. You just remember your first time. That's what it's about, baby.
Anyway, what were you saying about Eddie Murphy? I rudely interrupted.
He's become notorious over the past 20 something odd years for taking movies with big paychecks and whatnot. And he really wanted to make this movie, which, being in character breakdown, one of my favorite things thinking about watching this movie was Keegan Key, Eddie Murphy, Mike Epps, Craig Robinson, Wesley Snipes. Like, they all grew up with their parents showing them this shit. They were all that kid at the end of this movie telling Rudy Ray Moore they're his biggest fan. And Chris Rock, Snoop Dogg, like that. Just how fucking cool is that to be part of a movie like that? And like we've already talked about, you're not doing the whole life or anything. You're just focusing on 2 to 3 years. And so you really just get to like immerse yourself in all this stuff. And uh, Eddie Murphy did a great job doing that. I'm glad that he took massive pay cuts to make sure that he could make this movie, be in this movie. And I'm really glad he did it. Like you said, you didn't think he had it in him. Maybe I didn't either. I don't know. Been a long time since I even watched an Eddie Murphy movie. And it just fucking phenomenal. He kills it every time he's on screen. And he's on screen the whole movie.
There's so many good supporting roles. Do you wanna do a draft for the supporting characters?
Uh yeah, sure. Since who's drafting first?
You can go first.
I guess I'm gonna I guess I'm gonna take Wesley Snipes.
'Kay.
He was so funny to me.
I
I
com I completely agree. What a casting job for this, and again, like Eddie Murphy, I didn't know Snipes still had it in him.
I I I didn't know Snipes ever had it in him. But that's also not watching a lot of Wesley Snipes movies. Pretty much I've only exclusively watched the Blade movies and Demolition Man. Last week we did White Men Can't Jump. So I'm watching that movie and I'm like, damn, Wesley Snipes is not the guy that I know from Blade and Demolition Man. And then this movie, just he was as good as Eddie Murphy in my mind. Just significantly less screen time because the character is less important for the overall story.
Correct.
And just nails it. Who's your pick? Who's your first pick?
Uh, so my first pick, and I think this is because it's such a crucial part of the story, because it helps the sweetness so much of the story. Lady Reed is my favorite of the side characters in this movie.
Good pick. Lady Reed's awesome.
The sit down she has where she says that the director, or the not the director, but director of photography, I guess, says that she likes to suck her gut in for pictures, and these movies take 24 pictures per second. I loved how just down to earth she was in this movie, and I thought she was a big reason this movie's as sweet as it is, which again is the best part of this movie.
I, I don't know if it's the best. I don't know if it's the best part of this movie, how sweet it is, or if the best part is how sweet it is with how vulgar it is and how crass it is. Because it's all of that. But I
It
mean,
y Yes, if it's
that
just vulgar and crass, it's not a good movie. If it's just sweet, it's not a good movie. It is the combination, you are correct.
yeah. And the combination is really able to hit home because of her character. And you're right. Like good first choice. My second choice, I'm gonna go Mike Epps.
I thought I was gonna be able to sneak that one, but yeah, Mike Epps is basically just playing the same character Mike Epps always plays, and it's great every time. He's
It's
like the white guy who just does the evil white guy roles in black movies.
Yeah, it I loved him freaking out about his Cadillac getting blown up. Cause like you said, Mike Epps is just playing the same character Mike Epps has always played, and that's why you put him in this movie, because you needed that scene. And he killed it. But fucking Mike Epps, man.
For the sake of the pod, I'm gonna Eddie Guerrero this draft pick and say that I loved the white film crew. I know this is Black History Month and this is a black movie, but I loved the UCLA student film crew that were helping to shoot the movie. I found everything they did and how they reacted with the black characters and how the black characters reacted to them. I found it all so funny.
I'm okay. That's a good pick. I'm not gonna hate on that pick. It's a good pick. And I like Wesley Snipes when they first showed up. He's just like, yeah, is he the DP? And Rudy Roger Moore is like, DP, because this motherfucker's like double penetration.
Yeah, we were all thinking it.
Yeah. And he's just like, director of photography? Yeah. That is who that is. He's just like, bro, you need to get people that can shoot black folk. Yo, that's racist. No, it ain't racist. We look different behind the screen, behind the camera, bro.
Black absorbs the light. White reflects it.
Just and it Good pick. Good pick. Well, I guess we'll go 3 on these. So my third pick, I'll end it with, I'll probably steal it from you, but I'm going to go Key.
Oh, that's fine. That's not who I was gonna choose. I
Okay.
I understood the character and it was necessary. I just didn't find anything that really stood out. I didn't think they needed someone as talented as him in that role. They could have just done it with anybody who sounded like a snotty professor.
Yeah, but I mean, I like just the chemistry that him and Eddie Murphy had,
They did have good chemistry. I agree with you.
getting him to write the movie, how upset he was about the sex scene he wrote. And, and, ju- and just that scene where Rudy Roger Moore is like, we need kung fu and explosions and car chases. Oh, okay. And an exorcist. What the fuck? An exorcist? Yeah. 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 Suck your dick. Just that kind of shit. People love that shit. And I'm such a good scene. And yeah, so that's why he's my third pick. What's
See,
your third pick? Is it Craig Robinson?
no, it is actually the the guy who I believe he's gay in this movie. I think they hint at it a few times, but don't really go into detail. Genius move of it. Who's like the guy that handles the money, who's the first employee you see at the record company with him.
Okay.
I thought just as a side character for what he did fit the movie really well. And the hinting at him being gay was, I thought, a real kind of subtly genius part of this movie too.
Good last pick. Good last pick. I like that one. All right. Trivia and facts. I don't have any budget because, it's a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
I just know that Eddie Murphy made sure to take pay cuts to ensure that he could make this movie. And I like when actors do that, so I liked bringing it up. But this movie has great trivia. A good Black History Month movie for the trivia. Eddie Murphy is a huge fan of Wesley Snipes, and this movie is the first time the two of them got to work together.
Cool.
Most vintage Rudy Ray Moore movie scenes are recreated in their entirety with modern actors. However, in the house escape scene, where the one where he goes, "Bitch, are you for real?" It's from the Human Tornado movie, and is the and only the close-up shots of Moore were replaced, so Eddie Murphy appears to interact with the original supporting cast members of that movie.
All right, little movie trickery.
Yeah. Keegan Michael Key was and is a huge fan of Rudy Ray Moore, and before getting cast in this film, while working on the Predator movie in 2018, other cast members would go to his trailer during breaks in filming to watch Rudy Ray Moore's movies.
It's a great way to kill time.
Isn't it? When Jerry Jones and Rudy Ray Moore are starting to write the script for Dolemite, which, I just talked about this scene, Moore starts running down a laundry list of what he wants put in the film, from kung fu fights to an exorcism. When Jones gets exacerbated and questions the exorcism scene, Moore realizes he has gone too far with his ideas and suggests putting the devil in another movie. This is an inside reference to the future Moore film, Petey Wheatstraw, from 1977. Although the film is about the making of Dolemite, Rudy Ray Moore's first film, numerous Easter egg references Moore's later movies. The police car chase, Dolemite fleeing the house, and the exploding car, and the sex scene are from the sequel to Dolemite, The Human Tornado, and more repeatedly saying, "Put your weight on it," and the main character in the play vowing to take revenge against a drug dealer are references to Disco Godfather.
Disco Godfather.
Also, the next time I'm having sex and I'm on bottom, I'm going to say, "Put your weight on it."
Which is never.
But when it does happen, I'm going to say, "Put your weight on it." Because how fucking awesome. Um, as Rico enters Dolphin's record store, he says, "I was born in a barrel of butcher knives, shot in the ass with 2 Colt 45s. That monologue would be the basis for Rudy Ray Moore's duet with rapper Big Daddy Kane on the track Big Daddy vs. Dolemite, as featured in Kane's 1990 album, Taste of Chocolate.
I just imagine it's WWE Kane, the big red machine, and this makes it funnier for me.
Fair. Rudy Ray Moore claims to have worked with Red Fox, whose comedy routine is featured in this film. Eddie Murphy worked with Fox 3 decades earlier in 1989's Harlem Nights, which is his directorial debut.
Nice.
Snoop Dogg appeared in Snoop Doggy Dogg, Doggy Dog World, which featured Rudy Ray Moore. Oh,
Sure.
hey, that's what I'm saying. Just how cool was it for all these guys to make a movie about Rudy Ray Moore when they've been growing up with this guy? Rapper, not rapper Snoop Dogg, the Snoop Dogg, who has a small role in this film, included a reference to Dolemite in his lyrics from the first single on Dr. Dre's debut album, Nothing But a G Thing, stating, "Showing much flex when it's time to wreck a mic, pimping hoes and clocking a grip like my name was Dolemite." Yeah, that's my trivia and facts. You're welcome.
Nice.
Oh, so I'm guessing the impersonation is gonna be impersonating Rudy Ray Moore in a funny way.
Yes, in honor of Black History Month, we are going to impersonate Rudy Ray Moore, impersonate, I guess, Dolemite by insulting some racist.
Perfect. My favorite way to not I shouldn't say my favorite way, but one of my many favorite ways to celebrate Black History Month is to insult racists. So you're up, bro.
Donald Trump, you are the president and a convicted criminal. We all know the size of your hands and dick is fucking minimal. Elon
No,
Musk, Elon Musk, I saw you do a Sig Heil. Your cyber truck looked like elephant shit in a pile. If someone went Luigi on your ass, it would make us all motherfucking smile.
nice. Those are good. All right. David Duke, Grand Wizard of the KKK. A bunch of dudes dressing up the same sure sounds pretty motherfucking gay.
Woo!
I saw you motherfuckers there on January 6th, storming the Capitol to just compensate for your tiny ass fucking dicks.
I wrote all four of those in a span of about 2 minutes.
Yeah, you no one knows this about you, but you're very good at making things sound good.
I could have been the next Rudy Ray Moore. I could have been a contender.
Those are
Is
good.
is this movie just a good version of Rudy that's like, don't ever give up, just keep grinding, but it's actually a good version of it? This is the good Rudy, not the shitty one,
Yeah.
who eventually got thrown in prison for running a Ponzi scheme.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Fucking loser. Probably ran a Ponzi scheme because he never gave up on football because he sucked at it.
He should have.
I came across this fucking funny stand-up bit. You're gonna love it. The comedian was like, "Yeah, I have a dream where trans women replace all women in sports. I'm like Dr. King has a dream. That's my dream, because I just think it's fucking funny because all these women are just like, yeah, they're stronger and faster, and I was like, yeah. You know why we don't feel bad for you? Because that's what happened when we let blacks into sports."
Jesus Christ.
He goes, he's just like, "Oh, so you can't run as fast and jump as high and be as strong as them? Yeah. Wonder why I don't feel bad." Then you got little Johnny, 8-year-old little Johnny, just like, "When I grow up, I want to be a running back." Johnny, you're Irish, dude. Should probably just be an accountant, okay? Which is, you know, growing up in East Texas, growing up around a bunch of racist people, the shit that was being said in the late 90s and early 2000s just, blows my mind. But it blows my mind up until about 2016, 2018, whenever Trump got elected the first time, and now he's reelected, and, people are just way more openly racist. And I'm just like, was it really that weird that people were saying this in the late 90s and early 2000s? But that stupid racist joke. You know why black people are so good at sports? Because we bred them that way. That's basically a funny version of that joke. Like, actual funny people making something funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
And
racism's not funny, but when you make fun of racism because it's stupid, that's funny.
yes, and it's people don't understand a lot about racist jokes. It's not that you made a racist joke, it's that you made one that wasn't funny.
Yep.
Like, "Oh, you made a fried chicken and watermelon joke. Congratulations on being the 7,000th time I've heard that joke. That's why I'm not laughing, because 'cause you're not original and you're not funny."
Yep. It's like the classic, oh, your name's BJ. Bet you love giving BJs, huh?
Yeah. Did you think of that all by yourself? You feel good about that?
Ugh. Good shit. I like this movie. This is a good movie. I enjoy the fuck out of this movie. Final thoughts on the movie. Speaking of which, I'll go first because I think my rating's going to be higher than yours.
Sure.
I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10 or even do a 9.5 to round up to a 10. So I'm slapping a 9.4 on this bad boy. I can see myself watching this maybe once a year. And I say that with watching a ton of movies on top of having a movie podcast because I thought about that the first time I watched Beverly Hills Cop, and I've still just seen it twice. But this 9.4. This is a great movie.
For me, this is a 7.9. It's funny, it's sweet, but it is a 2-hour comedy where I don't really laugh out loud, so it was really hard to get it into the 8 range just based on that fact alone. But it is funny, it is sweet, and it's definitely worth a watch.
It's funny because that's part of my reason for rating it so high is the fact that they were able to make a 2-hour comedy where I don't really laugh out loud, and I still found it as hilarious as I found it and was never bored. But I understand why those are the reasons you don't get into the 8 range. It doesn't surprise, I get it. It's just funny that those were the two, the same reason that we went different ways with this.
Sure.
So good and bad IMDb reviews. This movie was a little bit kind of boring and hard to do a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that the bad IMDb reviews are boring and everybody's just upset that motherfucker was used a lot. One person said
What did you think? What did you think you were getting into? Like I said, I knew nothing about Rudy Ray Moore other than he was a vulgar motherfucker.
yeah, I'm just like, it's a rated R. And I didn't know anything about Rudy Ray Moore. I knew that it was about blaxploitation films and, they're notorious for being wild fucking films that are just fun to watch. And it's a rated R Eddie Murphy movie. Like, we've all been there. We all watched Raw. We all watched Beverly Hills Cop. Like, we've been there. Like, what did you think was going to happen? But one person was like, I turned it off after motherfucker was said the 4th time, which was 20 seconds in. Like,
That's fair.
all the bad reviews are fucking boring and stupid. Some good reviews, because I picked a couple because the bad reviews are so bad. The title to this one is all I picked, and it's very akin to your Rudy comment. Imagine Ed Wood about someone with a little more talent.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
From Eli Elvis, titled Love Eddie Murphy. I'm a simple man. Eddie Murphy cursing and being funny again is all I fucking need. And he spelled fucking PHKING to pass it off on IMDb. So, Eli Elvis, you're welcome on the pod anytime, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a simple man. He wants karate, car explosions, and titties.
Yeah. From Mac 95402, titled A Hilarious Feel Good Ride. From someone who has honestly never heard of Dolemite or Rudy Ray, I have found a new respect for a dude I now have to learn and appreciate more about. All of your favorites are here. If you don't check this movie out at the very least for the cast, you are probably one rat soup eating idiot. That's all I know, man.
He wanted to say motherfucker.
He did. And he could have just done PHKING and it would have been fun.
ER, not it's.
I know. I'm just, it was easy to look at my phone and spell it. All right. And then more of an endearing 10 out of 10 review from Ray Rackjohn titled So Great for My Generation. As I watched this movie, I recall the times decades ago that I listened to Rudy Ray Moore tapes, sometimes in mixed company. And years later, I regretted playing those tapes in mixed company. Fast forward to today, and after watching the movie, I no longer regret playing these tapes with women present. I love and
Saying mixed company is a really good way to tell me how old you are without telling me how old you are.
yes, I agree.
You ever heard anyone under the age of 60 say in mixed company?
Nope. And then, just in case you didn't understand what he was saying, he goes, I no longer regret playing these tapes with women present. For all you youngins. I loved and still love the stark humor of his routine. It was brazen, it was bold, and I respected what he was doing, and still do. I don't think the younger folks of today would get what he was doing, and that's understandable. It was a different time and a different world back then. He was pushing the limits, and good for him to do so. Sadly, the guys that enjoyed those tapes with me, and I can recall 3 of them, have all died and can't enjoy this film. Bottom line, that's life. I'm glad Eddie Murphy opted to do this movie. It was wonderful to relive those days for a few hours.
What a sweet, earnest review that is.
Yeah,
I love that review.
yeah. We don't get a lot on the pod, and I read that, and I was like, well, that's got to make it. So,
Yeah, that's so sweet and earnest. I love that.
question of the pod: should people watch this movie? I mean, I rated this a 9.4, so fuck yeah, go watch the movie.
Yeah, most definitely. Unless you don't want to hear the PHCK word.
Yeah, and if you're adverse to cussing, this
You're
movie's
probably
not for
not
you.
listening to this podcast, so I don't even know why I said that. Because
Right.
we introduced the podcast by asking if we like shitty movies.
Yeah. We say, show us your dick, Michael Douglas. And you know what? Eddie Murphy wouldn't have done it either. He had a body double for his nude scenes.
Yeah, but he took a pay cut. We're not mad that Michael Douglas didn't. We're mad that he made so much money and his co-star did, making so much less money.
Yes. I know. Still funny though. I had to break just because he had a body double. And I wanted to say, show us your dick, Michael Douglas, because like you just said, he should have showed us his fucking dick.
It's the least he could have done.
Maybe one day he'll do it because of our podcast. I doubt it.
We can only hope.
I have to pop a Viagra now, I'm pretty sure. Michael Douglas, pop a Viagra, take a pic, and post it on our social media. IRMFT. We're on Twitter, Facebook. I don't even know why we use Twitter anymore. It's an insult for right-wing shitheads and genocide lovers.
You're
If
not
you're white,
wrong.
if you're a right-wing shithead and you support genocide in any form or fashion, just don't ever listen to our podcast again. We don't even make money doing this. We don't fucking like you.
Should I give people a Google suggestion to end the pod?
Oh, yes.
Google 61% of Israeli men. Just for fun.
That's what it'll be. Fun. You're welcome. Follow us on the social medias at IRMFT.
Bye.